You know, they say that all wrestling documentaries are created equal. But you look at Beyond the Mat, and you look at WWE 24, and you can see that statement is not true. See, normally if you go one-on-one with another wrestling documentary, you've got a 50-50 chance of winning. But Beyond the Mat is a genetic freak, and it's not normal. So you got a 25% at best at beat it. Then you add Resurrection of Jake the Snake to the mix, the chances of winning drastic go down.
Support Wrestle Talk!
Hello and welcome to the Wrestle Talk Mecha News! I am Luke Owen. Coming up, we've got a rumor killer for Paige's in-ring return, the latest on Impact's TV deal with Pop, and the news of several Ring of Honor stars leaving the company. But first, I wanted to extend a big thank you to everyone who came down for our screening of Beyond the Mat this past Tuesday at the Prince Charles Cinema in London. With an extra big thank you to Keith Lee, Sami Callihan, this dickweed, and Beyond the Mat director Barry Blaustein for providing intros for the film. It was so awesome meeting so many members of the SWAF Nation, and we hope to see you at our next live show whenever that may be. Thank you for supporting Wrestle Talk. And it looks like you guys aren't the only one who supports Wrestle Talk, as the King of Bros is also a fan. In a recent video posted by WWE's Performance Center YouTube channel, which documents the arrival of Matt Riddle in NXT at TakeOver Brooklyn 4, you can see several copies of the Wrestle Talk magazine on his desk. It really is a good magazine. And speaking of former UFC fighters making the transition to WWE, Segway and Ronda Rousey made headlines this week due to being part of the phenomenal closing angle for Monday's Raw. Really, the headlines are about how awesome Becky Lynch is, but Ronda was there to be a good bit part player. However, Ronda also caught some backlash during a backstage promo to hype her Survivor Series match with Lynch, which has since been changed to Ronda versus Charlotte Flair due to Becky's concussion and broken face. In the promo, Ronda said Becky was a hypersensitive millennial man, a line which many found odd considering that a large portion of WWE's audience are millennials, not to mention that Ronda herself is also a millennial. Many have criticized the promo for making Ronda sound less like a badass legit fighter and more like an angry old guy yelling at darn kids to get off his lawn. So it will come as no surprise to hear that this promo wasn't written by Alex Jones, Jeremy Clarkson, or Vince McMahon, known for hating the millennial generation, but by Paul Heyman. Rousey revealed in a vlog following the European tour that she was working with Heyman on all of her Becky promos and all of her promos in general, which had heavily been reported by Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. According to Meltzer, Ronda finds that Heyman is the only writer she feels comfortable working with, as he is the one who gets her character the most. Well, you know, if that character is an old man who hates kids playing their rock and roll music too darn loud. With Flair now replacing Lynch at Sunday Survivor Series, that leaves a spot open on the SmackDown team for the women's 5-on-5 elimination match. But who will fill that void? It had been reported earlier in the week that Mike Johnson of PW Insider was claiming Paige could be cleared to wrestle for WWE once again, after retiring earlier this year. Paige made her return to WWE around this time last year, but a kick to her back by Sasha Banks on a house show over the holiday period put Paige on the shelf indefinitely, who has now transitioned into an authority role on SmackDown Live. We didn't cover Johnson's story here on the Wrestle Talk News because, well, Mike Johnson of PW Insider didn't report that. What he actually reported was that Paige would not be cleared to wrestle in WWE, but if she were to leave the company, she could, in theory, wrestle again, the same way Daniel Bryan would have been able to if he had left WWE during his retirement. Paige herself, though, has denied all these rumors of a possible in-ring return by posting on Twitter, "One more knock to my neck could result in paralysis." Dave Meltzer added in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter that this seems to indicate that, unlike Bryan, she sees her in-ring career as over.
Callihan will always take an opportunity to talk some trash. Cage catches him.
Look out!
What does Brian Cage have in store here? Oh! Sunset bomb by Callihan and a kick out.
Great counter.
Cage!
Look out! Look at the power!
Wow! Brian Cage on one good leg. Oh!
Drill claw! Drill claw!
Brian Cage will retain his X Division Championship tonight.
Your winner of the match and still X Division Champion, the Machine, Brian Cage.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was your Impact Wrestling Slam of the Week, with Brian Cage successfully defending his X Division Championship against WrestleTalk supporter Sami Callihan. You'll get him next time, Sami! Last week it was reported that Impact Wrestling were looking for a new TV partner once their deal with Pop comes to an end. Impact had recently been moved to the later slot of 10 p.m, which did hurt its ratings, and PW Insider noted that was a sign that the relationship between the two sides was not strong. And now Dave Meltzer has reported in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter the TV contract with Pop TV ends on the 31st of December, but Impact will stay on Pop at least in early 2019. And before we transition seamlessly into this week's Wrestlers You Know in Films You Probably Don't Know, the first official trailer for Fighting With My Family was released online this week. The film centers on the real-life story of Paige and follows her career through NXT to her main roster debut, where she won the Divas Championship from AJ Lee in 2014. A clip from the film was first shown around WrestleMania time earlier this year by Paige here, but this full trailer gives us a better look at Florence Pugh as Paige, Nick Frost as Ricky Knight, Lena Headley as Julia Knight, Vince Vaughn as an NXT trainer, Dave Mastiff as a stand-in, and Zelina Vega filling in for AJ Lee. The film has been produced by Rock the Dwayne Johnson, who also stars in the film as himself, and has been written and directed by Stephen Merchant. According to Dave Meltzer, they give the most romantic view of WWE possible in the movie. But it wasn't just NXT UK's Dave Mastiff that featured in the trailer, as NXT United Kingdom champion Pete Dunne can also be seen in this scene with wait a darn minute, that's not Pete Dunne, that's just someone who looks like him. Something that didn't go unnoticed by the Bruiserweight, who tweeted to The Rock, "I'll be expecting my royalties then." And as alluded to a moment ago, that seamlessly transitions us into this week's Wrestlers You Know in Films You Probably Don't Know. Seamless. And to celebrate our screening of Beyond the Mat this past Tuesday at the Prince Charles Cinema, this week's Wrestler You Know in a Film You Probably Don't Know is the man who has retired more than Brock Lesnar has had Universal Championship title defenses, Terry Funk. Funk enjoyed quite a successful on-screen career outside of wrestling, starring in films such as Roadhouse and Paradise Alley, but today we're going to talk about the Sylvester Stallone arm wrestling movie Over the Top. The film centers on Lincoln Hawk, a truck driver who is trying to rebuild his relationship with his son while competing in arm wrestling competitions. As Paul Antiso wrote in the February 13th, 1987 Washington Post, a movie about arm wrestling, what's next? Crab soccer? The film also features former two-time IWGP heavyweight champion Scott Norton, and Funk stars as Rucker, a bodyguard for the film's bad guy Robert Loggia, perhaps best remembered for the scene in which Sly throws Funk through a glass door. He's hardcore! He's hardcore! The film was directed by Canon Films co-founder Manam Golan, and Sly was once quoted as saying the only reason he agreed to do the movie was because they kept offering me more and more money until I finally thought, what the hell, no one will see it. Ring of Honor will be holding their annual Final Battle show on my birthday, December 14th this year, and have announced several matches for the card. Matt Taven will face off against Dalton Castle in a match that was supposed to happen earlier this year before Castle wasn't medically cleared to compete. A four-corner survival match for the Women of Honor World title featuring Sumi Sakai, Madison Rayne, Karen Q, and Kelly Klein, and Jay Lethal will defend his ROH championship against the American Nightmare, Cody. However, Cody has revealed that this will be his final match for the promotion. It has been reported for some time now that Cody and several other members of the Elite, including Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Hangman Page, and Marty Scurll, could all be leaving their ROH and New Japan contracts when they expire either at the end of this year or early next year, with some sites even saying that they could all be heading to WWE. And Cody has now confirmed that he will not be re-signing with ROH, tweeting, "Jay was the first match I had in ROH 2 years ago. He will be my last. and I will take the World Championship into free agency. When a fan asked if this was a CM Punk Money in the Bank storyline situation, Cody replied, yes, my real life situation mirrors that storyline. Dave Meltzer has noted in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, however, that Cody is unlikely to rejoin WWE, as he wants to focus on his own acting career and make his own decisions, which he would not be able to do working for Titan Towers. Cody has said that he does want to continue working for New Japan and be part of next year's G1, something he was unable to do this year due to filming commitments on Arrow. But Meltzer, who clearly knows more than he's letting on, does note looking into 2019 there is an obvious major story on the horizon. And it's not just Cody who will possibly be leaving Ring of Honor by the end of the year, with Dave Meltzer reporting that both Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian have yet to sign ROH contracts offered to them. This would mean that the only regular on Being the Elite that has re-signed with ROH is Flip Gordon. There is no word on whether Kazarian or Daniels could make the jump to WWE, and while this might not mean anything at the moment, Kazarian recently responded to a tweet from Santana of Impact Tag Team Champions LAX, who wanted a match with SoCal Uncensored, saying LAX vs SCU 2019? And the names unfortunately keep coming, as Silas Young has told Wrestling Inc. that his contract with Ring of Honor is also up at the end of 2018 and he hasn't re-signed. When asked if he would go to WWE, the last real man answered, you can never say never in wrestling. WWE's had a thing in the past couple of years where they've been signing a lot of talent up. My contract's up at the end of the year. I'm not opposed to talking to either side. When it comes down to it, it's a business at the end of the day. You've got to go with what's best for you and your family. Thank you to everyone who watched and took part in the voting for the return of Fantasy Booking Warfare, where Ollie and I gave our pitches for the Undisputed Era's main roster call-up. We can now reveal that across both videos, Ollie scored 3,756 votes, while I earned a winning 5,223 votes.
Thank you. You love me. You really love me.
And as we revealed on the podcast version of Fantasy Booking Warfare, we have implemented a new winner stays on rule, which means I will next take on El Fakador Laurie Blake in Fantasy Booking Warfare next month. Our $25 and above pledge hammers on Patreon can now head over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to submit their suggestions on what that topic should be, with the poll going up for all pledge hammers to vote on next week. And as a special treat for the SWAP Nation, if you visit WrestleCrate.co.uk and use the discount code WTTV, you'll get a free autograph bundle, including one from a WWE legend, a current WWE star, and one from me and Ollie in your first box. WrestleCrate is a monthly mystery box full of loads of wrestling goodies, which has items from the biggest promotions in wrestling. What was the real reason Daniel Bryan turned heel? Find out in Ollie's Super News and check out our Survivor Series predictions in the latest episode of the Wrestle Ramble. I've been Luke Owen, and that was Mecha News!